Okay, so we're kind of doing these energy sources in the order in which they were first used. So we used wood first, and then we burned coal, and then we figured out about oil and natural gas, and then in the 1950s we started making nuclear power plants using nuclear fission. So another way of making energy is hydroelectric. And so the idea is that you used to have a river and then you built a dam. Okay, and then what happens is all of this water starts to pile up on this side of the dam. And then you can release some of that water. And then as the water is falling, it releases potential energy. So the same way that if I take this thing and I drop it, you hear the energy being given off. So the more mass and the higher up you lift it, the more energy you're going to store in the form of potential energy. And then as that water is falling, it can turn a turbine, and then that can produce electricity. Another way of producing energy is biofuels. So we said that the reason why we can burn oil and natural gas is they're composed of hydrocarbons, and the same thing with coal. So we can manufacture our own hydrocarbons because all we need is stuff that is organic immaterial. So we could use corn, for example, or basically anything. So we could use grass and weeds as a source of biofuels if we had to. It's just that corn is more gives you more bang for your buck. But I have a little video here that I'd like for you to watch that shows how biofuels are made and then how much energy do they have versus the energy that comes out of oil and natural gas. Okay, another way of getting energy is wind power. And so you can have wind power using a conventional windmill that has blades that are maybe a meter long, or you can have those kinds of windmills, and those blades are 100 meters long. And so these things are huge windmills. And each one of those has the capability of running something like 100 houses. The electrical output of like 100 houses could be satisfied by the use of one of those windmills. Another way of generating energy is by using sunlight. And so when sunlight, the energy in photons of electromagnetic radiation, when they hit certain kinds of substances, it knocks electrons loose. And then those electrons will make an electrical current. So this is one way of generating electricity is by the use of solar panels. Okay, another way of making energy is geothermal. And so this is by using the natural heat that is inside the earth. So we know the inside of the earth is hot because hot materials come out of volcanoes. So the idea is if we could drill down into the earth with a pipe that has water in it, then that water would be heated up, it would come to the surface, we could use that hot water to turn a turbine, and then that would make electricity. Tidal, so that is kind of similar to how a dam works. So the idea here is we're going to have some ocean water. We're going to build a dam, okay, and then what's going to happen is that at high tide, so let's say that the water rises to here during high tide, then what they can do is they could use the potential energy of this high tide in order to run a turbine, and then that would make electricity. And then that water would start to fill up this side over here. So as the water is draining over to this side, it could be used to make electricity. Okay, then at low tide, so now this water has gone down to here. Now what could happen is the water that was over here will start to drain back in, and then we can use the same turbine that we used before to generate more electricity. So this is a really neat way of producing electricity by using the global ocean tides. Okay, then you've got ocean waves. So an ocean wave has a certain height and it has a certain mass. So that means that when an ocean wave is up here, it has potential energy. And then when that wave crashes onto something, then it's going to give its potential energy to whatever that thing is. And so we have developed ways of using those ocean waves to generate electricity by using that method. Okay, then you've got nuclear fusion. So with nuclear fission, you started off with a big nucleus, and then if it was radioactive, it would break apart into two smaller nuclei and would give off energy. So the nuclear fusion is the exact opposite. We're going to start off with two small nuclei, and it's going to be hydrogen. So again, you get the most bang for your buck if you use hydrogen nuclei, which is just basically a proton. So we're going to take two protons and we're going to smash them together, and the process is a little bit complicated, but you end up with helium over here. So you start with hydrogen and you end up with helium, and this is also going to generate energy. So we're going to call this nuclear fusion. Now the bad thing about this is, well, let's start off with the good thing. The good thing is we've got an unlimited amount of hydrogen. It's called the oceans. So the oceans are composed of H2O. So we could separate the hydrogen from the oxygen. We could breathe the oxygen, take the hydrogen, turn it into helium. Now we could turn the helium into party balloons, or we could just let it escape the atmosphere. This produces radioactive byproducts. This does not. So it's very good for the environment. So that this would be really an unlimited source of energy. Now the bad news is going to be the temperature that you're going to need. The temperature to do this is going to be about 10 million degrees Celsius. Now we can do that with a nuclear weapon. So when we detonate a nuclear weapon, that gives off those kinds of temperatures. So the question is controlling it. So we want to be able to control the nuclear fusion reaction in order to get the energy out of it. And so I've got some videos here. So one is on how to use ocean waves to generate energy, and then the second one is on a breakthrough in nuclear fusion energy production. So just within this last year, they have said that they've made a major breakthrough in being able to actually get energy out of nuclear fusion. All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we are going to weigh the pros and the cons of each of these different kinds of energy sources.